You're probably all beginning to think that it was a figment of my imagination. But with the easterly flow, it came in yesterday, tickled the southeast corner of the task area, or the turn points that are currently in use, at around 1800 Central Daylight Time. And you can see from the sea breeze that it fired off a few cells of convection along the front. Not very many, but there was a lot of towering cumulus, a little light rain, and like I said, a couple of thunderstorms within that line. And so the next slide is a image of the sea breeze as it progressed across and off the Gulf Coast yesterday afternoon. As you got farther inland, it fired off the thunderstorms. Okay, and that touched the about Pleasanton down toward Laredo on an arc type of line. Just a little informative gift for you. Easterly wave, that's what they call it, just north of us this morning. The high ascended over the Oklahoma Panhandle. That's what we call the Oklahoma Panhandle. And with the clockwise rotation, this wave is to the northwest of us and exiting toward the west. That's putting this area under high pressure essentially. So we do expect our skies to be clearer than they were yesterday. I also expect the temperatures to climb a couple of degrees. And since we're about 99 yesterday, hence we're on our way to 101 degrees. Paper satellite showed again the easterly wave, just for your information, and the convection and little clouds that are being developed ahead of it. Go ahead and go through the infrared. I just wanted to point out on this fog and low product that it does have some use. The cirrus is also depicted on the temperature range, and so the cirrus, or the high cloudiness that has been hampering our surface heating, has moved, or is moving well to the west of us. And the cloudiness to the north of us is primarily limited from Uvalde north, and again, exiting to the west. Easterly flow at all levels. This is the 10,000 foot level, approximately 700 millibars. The thunderstorm threat is limited to the Gulf Coast from Louisiana around towards San Antonio. This product, by the way, changed in 6 hours, in the 6-hour update cycle time. They had more of the 40% extending north of us through Uvalde and had us closer, shall we say, to the likelihood of thunderstorms. They backed off from it slightly out of Storm Prediction Center. However, the area is showing signs that it will be able to develop some thunderstorms in the area today. Pressure gradients are showing nothing more than that the high is north of us. In fact, the pressure gradient from Brownsville to Dallas is actually reversed, and it's showing that it's higher pressure in Dallas. But again, the mid-level winds and even the low-level winds are from the east, and with the thermal mixing, I expect the southeast flow at the surface to be a couple of 3 knots higher than it typically is. Also, the sea breeze itself will have no restriction in its movement. It's going to be encouraged to come inland. The Del Rio Rayab is not the representative Rayab. It is to the west of us in the easterly flow. But I've gone ahead and plotted the 100 degree Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius maximum temperature, and nonetheless you can see it gets up there to 9,000 feet. I had this slide up a few days before, but I wanted to point out that today's slide shows this level of free convection. That is, you take the surface maximum temperature and run it up the dry adiabat. You take the dew point at the surface. This is what we call mixing ratio lines. Anyway, when it comes up and intercepts the adiabat, that's the level you can expect clouds, and at that point also the condensation. And now the air cools at the moist adiabat rate, which means there's some warming, and if it breaks into the clear, you notice that the rising parcel stays to the right, or is more buoyant than the morning sounding all the way up, and that's where you get your thunderstorms. This particular inverted V sounding is a classic for what we call the high base cumulus and the threat of a high gust potential at the surface, downburst. So that's just, if you ever hear a weatherman trying to talk Greek and he talks inverted V on the sounding, that's it. Corpus Christi Rayab is probably the representative Rayab in the in the middle levels, and because it is upstream, You notice if we get 100 degrees, that again it confirms it gets up here to about 9,000 feet. Also shows that our trigger should start about midday. It's marginally unstable in the Uvalde area and down toward Del Rio. What that means is as the temperature gets close to the maximum in the late afternoon hours, some of your hotter spots may be able to kick off some thunderstorms in the southeast Texas Gulf Plain. I do look for the thunderstorms to be enhanced along the sea breeze front as it comes in, because that uplifting will help destabilize. And also the hill country to the north, because it's slightly higher, will also have a greater likelihood of thunderstorms in the late afternoon hours over it. So in the meantime, down on the Gulf Plain itself, around Uvalde, to the southeast, we're going to have pretty good soaring conditions. I do believe not as many cumulus as one would normally get at Uvalde, but nonetheless, the sky should be marked with cumulus as the day goes on, few to scattered category, and the cloud bases will rise. I do expect some convection, again along the sea breeze front and the hill country, and I need to indicate that forecasters are just now re-looking at the soundings for the day, and some of the updates are talking about a greater probability of air mass thunderstorms over the plain late in the day. At this point in time, let's just say this area is very good soaring and not quite the overdevelopment, but the threat is there. Late afternoon, the blip maps, the RASP runs just show that you have a good high top of the thermals, and boundary layers showing 9,000 to 10,000 feet. Cross-country skies running the NAM product showed 9,000 to 10,000 feet over the plain. And the lift rates are running, they're a little bit on the conservative side, 500 to 550 feet per minute. If we get the altitude maxes that I expect you to get, you're going to see 650 to 750 feet per minute in the mid to late afternoon hours, and obviously you'll have some spikes. So the soaring forecast is actually pretty good. Running through this, the launch clouds will start out about 4,500 feet scattered. They'll raise as the afternoon goes on. You get to 6,500 and then 7,000 feet mean sea level probably by mid-afternoon. Late in the day, you'll probably be looking at 7,500 to 8,500. The potential max altitude is 9,000 feet, but I expect the cloud bases are going to be relatively high. They'll be up there around 8,000, 8,500 feet, probably very similar to what you saw yesterday down toward the south when you smoked the cores. So the local forecasts were a little bit more conservative. They were keeping the 99 degrees Fahrenheit forecast out, and I just don't see any reason why we won't hit triple digits. So my forecast is contingent upon triple digits. If it's less than that, then all that means is it'll diminish the likelihood of convection. But if it hits 101, then the thunderstorm chances improve. So this is the outlook, not for flying, but for traveling home. Have a safe trip home. The high is going to return to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which means the plains are going to warm again, go back to the drying, unfortunately. There's no temporary flight restrictions in the area, again, which is good. And the last slide, please. I'd like to personally thank Pat Buckley, Michelle Sorensen, I was going to forget somebody. Pat, Michelle, Linda Murray, for taking care of the crew. That is Ken Sorensen, John, and myself. They kept us fed and watered inside while we were chained to the desk again. So I'd like to thank them very much for that service. And also, it's been a privilege and an honor for Walt Rogers and I to serve you. Thank you. Thank you.